Start.
Good morning, dear students. Welcome back to live webinar classes conducted by Telangana Residential Educational Institutions Society. Dear students, continuing to the last class, we are going to start another class, which is the continuation session for the last class that we have started. Okay, we have started the first chapter in the last class, that is diversity of living world. From this chapter, we have completed 2 lectures. Today, we are going to have third lecture, which is on the following topics like the importance of species in biodiversity in an ecosystem. And we are going to learn about role of biodiversity, threats to biodiversity, and methods of conservation of biodiversity. And also, we are going to learn about IUCN, okay, and red data book. You will get to know about these words in very short time. And we are also going to learn about conservation of wildlife in India. Okay, these are the points, these are the concepts that we are going to learn today. Let's start our class. Importance of species in an ecosystem. Yesterday, I have explained you the meaning of ecosystem, isn't it? So there are biotic components and abiotic components in an ecosystem. They live together, and different communities also live together. They make up an complete ecosystem, isn't it? So why the species are important in the ecosystem? First of all, we must know what is meant by species. Yesterday we discussed this. Species are nothing but the group of individuals interbreeding together and having and sharing the common gene pool and habitat. Okay, let's see why they are important. See, communities with more types of species tend to be more stable than those with less species. Okay? If there are more kind of animals, if there are more kind of plants, then that community will be more stable than the other communities which has less number of species. So species number should be more for the stable ecosystem. Okay. So mostly in the pond and marine ecosystem and rainforest ecosystem, you can see large number of species where they are highly stable. Okay. Next, we learn about the experiments of some scientists. The first the experiment is that we are going to learn is Tillman's experiment. From his experiments, he has proved that plots with more species showed less variations in biomass year to year. If there are more species in a plot, that means the area, then there will be less variations. If the variations in the plants or animals is less, that ecosystem will be more stable. Okay, so it increases the stability of an ecosystem when there is less variation, right? So plots with many more species, they have shown less variations. That's what observed by Tillman. And increased biodiversity contributed to higher productivity, isn't it? If there are more number of species, if more number of varieties in an ecosystem, then what happened? They produce, their productivity will also be very high. If the productivity is high, the consumers who are depending on these producers will also be more. Consumer means here the animals which are depending on the plants. The number of animals also will be more. When number of animals are more, the predator animals will also be more. That means the food chain will continue with a proper manner. That's what happen when there is a high biodiversity. High biodiversity means nothing but containing more number of species. Next, Paul Ehrlich experiments. He has explained his experiment as Rivet-Popper hypothesis. So here the rivet means the bolt. Bolt means what? in the machinery, in the machines, you find small nut and bolt, isn't it? So the bolt and nut will be rolling, and bolt, nut, and they are useful for the fixing of any machinery, isn't it? So these nuts and bolts, mainly bolts, are called as rivets. Okay, so he compared species with the bolts. Why did he compare like that? Let's see. Species are as important as rivets in an aeroplane parts. Removal of a rivet in seat has less effect, but removal of rivet in wings may lead to the damage of whole aeroplane, isn't it? So if this nut and bolts are removed in the seat of an aeroplane, then there will be less effect. But the same nut and bolts are present in the location of wings also. When at the place of wings, if they are removed, what happens? So flight will get crashed. The aeroplane may crash. So in the same manner, our ecosystem also contain different kinds of species, and some species may be useless, but some critical species are also there, which are most important for the existence of the whole ecosystem. If those species got extinct, that means if they are completely eradicated or extinct, then the whole ecosystem may damage. Okay, so in this manner, the species are most important aspects in the ecosystem. Hope you have understood. He compared the species with the bolts. Okay, so this is the rivet popper hypothesis. It's most important for your IPE and also NEET exam. So keep an eye upon it. Next, we learn about the role of biodiversity in our life. What is its role? Let's know its importance. So the importance can be classified into three aspects. The first aspect is narrowly utilitarian argument. So why the forests are important? Because they are the reservoir of lot many resources and medicines, isn't it? So this is actually a narrow utility. That means there is some more broad utility present, right, of the biodiversity. Reservoir of resources means nothing but we get food, and we get shelter, and we get different kinds of products like latex, paper, rubber, and many other things, wood, furniture. All these things we are getting from the biodiversity itself. And we are getting different kinds of medicines for protecting ourselves and for increasing our lifespan, isn't it? Next, let's see the broadly utilitarian argument. So what is it? It is an incredible utility. That means we cannot we cannot pay back to the biodiversity, because they are the reason that we are existing. 20% of oxygen is produced by Amazon rainforest, isn't it? And oxygen is the main gas that we take for the process of respiration. If there is no oxygen, there is no life. We all know about it, right? And the pollination is possible only because of biodiversity. If only flowering plants exist, if there are no family of insects, if there is no family of insects, then what happened? Pollination is not possible. Maybe to some extent it happened with the help of wind, but most of the pollination is done by the coexistence, by the helping each other. The insects will help in the process of pollination. So that's a huge importance of biodiversity. Next, see the ethical argument. In the ethical argument, we learn about coexistence, right? Human beings, animals, and different kinds of plants and other microorganisms all are interdependent on each other. So if one species has eradicated, then we will also be affected. Okay, it is a kind of a symbiosis that we are showing. It is a moral duty of us to care the biological legacy to the future generations, right? So that's why we have to care the biodiversity. We have to protect our biodiversity. Let's see why the biodiversity is getting decreasing day by day. So what are the evil quadrate? Evil quadrate means nothing but quadrate means the four reasons. Evil means they are devastated effects, right? Evil quadrate means these are the four reasons by which our biodiversity is getting affected. The first and most important reason is the habitat loss. What is mean by habitat? Habitat means the place where animal lives. The dwelling place of an animal is called its habitat. Suppose the wild animals live in the forest. So forest is the habitat for them, isn't it? And underground is a habitat for many burrowing animals. So for some arboreal animals, trees are the habitat, isn't it? Like that. And water is also one of the habitat for the aquatic animals. Habitat loss is the main reason for the decrease in biodiversity. How the habitat is lost, how we are snatching their habitat, their place of living by the deforestation. Here in the pictures you can see the every year there is a large amount of forest is being cut down for the making of furniture or making of paper, for different purposes, for the urbanization and civilization, for making cities, making the roads. So these are all the reasons for the urbanization process. What we are doing, we are cutting down the forest and making it into a city and village and croplands. Even making a forest into a cropland is also the deforestation, because we are cutting down the large trees and we are growing the paddy. Okay, that is also a kind of deforestation. So it is a main reason for the threat, for the decreasing of biodiversity. And the second one is fragmentation. What is meant by this fragmentation? What we are doing is, if there is a large forest, we are converting into the villages. So between the forests, we are making the roads, and in the forest, we are making cities, and we are making villages. And so in this way, what we are doing, we are dividing the forest into some fragments. This is called fragmentation of the forest. By doing this, what we are doing, we are threatening the animals which are living in the forest. So sometimes you can see the accidents also happen on the road when the road is between the forest. Then you can find many accidents to the animals. Many animals die by the accidents also. Next, pollution. It is also the major cause for the decrease of biodiversity. Many animals are lost by this pollution, isn't it? The next reason is over exploitation. This environment is available for the human beings only for their need, not for their greed. Okay, the greediness means using more than what we actually want. So because of the greediness of the human beings, we are losing our nature. We are losing the quality of our nature. It will definitely leads to some destruction someday. So that's why we are over exploited the natural resources that we are having in the earth. Okay. The next reason is invasion of alien species. When some animals move from one place to another place by the process of migration, we all know that. But when some other species invade to the new place, that's called invasion. When one kind of species come to another place where it has migrated, in that place, whatever the animals are there, they will get the problem of for their food and shelter. There will be increase in the competition for the food and shelter. So this will also cause the indigenous species. Indigenous species means the naturally existing living species of that habitat. Whatever animal migrated from the other habitat will cause harm to the indigenous species. So this invasion of species is done artificially also. Sometimes we also bring the alien species to the new environment, and we will cause harm to the indigenous species. Example, Nile perch, it has caused harm to the African catfish because these Nile perch has been predated over this catfish. So catfish population has gradually came down. Next, exotic Parthenium and Eichhornia. Parthenium, Eichhornia, both are the plant varieties. Parthenium is a famous weed. So this weed is actually imported from the foreign, and now you can see everywhere you can see the Parthenium in India. So it has been growing as a weed, and it is affecting the productivity of our paddy culture or whatever the agriculture. Eichhornia is a water plant. It is an aquatic plant. It is also an exotic species. So this Eichhornia has caused a lot of pollution in the water, and it has a vegetative propagation also. So it once the Eichhornia is established or invaded to the pond, it will increase and it will spread all over the lake and pond, and it spoil the lake, and eventually the lake and pond undergoes the eutrophication process, and eutrophication leads to the extinct of animals. So whatever the aquatic animal living there eventually die because of the decrease of the oxygen in the water. You will learn about this in the future classes. Next is coexistence. All the animals are coexisting on this planet. Even plants are dependent on animals for some reason. Animals are dependent on plants for the food, we all know, but plants also depended on animals for the pollination process. Here in the picture you can see, for the effective pollination, for the formation of seeds, there is a need of insects, isn't it? And the flowers are most attracting part of the plants because they try to attract the insects for the process of pollination. So there is a symbiotic relationship between plants and animals, and we are all coexisting together. Okay, coexisting means living for others, and one is living for others, and they are getting benefit out of it. Next, let's learn about the methods of conservation of biodiversity. The huge biodiversity is there in India and all over the world, but there is a need for the protection of biodiversity. If we go on continuing these deforestation and civilization, urbanization, then eventually the species on earth may extinct. So it is a very dangerous threat to the world as well. So that's why it is very important to protect the biodiversity, to protect the various plants and animal species. For this, the government and different countries got together, and they have took a stand on protecting these species. Okay, let's see how they are going to protect the animals. One is the in situation conservation. In situ conservation means in the situation wherever they exist. If we are protecting the animals at their natural habitat, it's called in situ conservation. You see the examples of in situ conservation is biodiversity hotspots. We have named some of the regions of the world as biodiversity hotspots. That means wherever the threatening species are there, wherever the species number is decreasing, that place is identified as biodiversity hotspots, and we protect those hotspots. That means the government take an initiation for the protection of these species. So here in this, we are protecting the plants and animals in one particular location for their natural habitat. We are not bringing the plants and animals to another place, hence it is in situ conservation. We are protecting the plants and animals in their region, in their natural habitat. You can see it is proposed by Norman Mayers, is a scientist. He has proposed this idea of biodiversity hotspots. There are around 34 hotspots on Earth which are threatened by destruction. So they are rapidly getting destructed. That's why they are identified and being protected. Some of the examples are Western Ghats of India, Indo-Burma region, and Himalayas of India. So these are the regions where the biodiversity is getting decreased, and hence they are identified as hotspots. The next is biosphere reserves. So if any special animals are, if any habitat is very special to some animals, like in Gujarat you find Gir forest. So the Gir forest is most famous for the Asiatic lions. Asiatic lions are existing more in number in that region. Hence what government has done, it is identified that location as a biosphere reserve. They make a fence around it and they start protecting that region. And they build as a national park also. First national park is the Jim Corbett National Park, right? And Kaziranga National Park is most famous for rhinoceros, and it is located at Assam. And KBR National Park is located in Hyderabad, and Mahavir National Park is also located in Hyderabad. It is a national park, but it is not equal to zoo park. In the zoo park, what happened? We bring the animals from different locations to the park and we feed them and we grow them. But in national park, it is not like that. Animals live in their natural habitat. What we do, we protect the location where they are existing. Right? This is national parks. Okay, so it is an in situ conservation. Next is sanctuaries. Sanctuaries are especially made for the endangered faunal species. Faunal species means the animals. Flora and fauna means flora means plants and fauna means the animals. So it is especially made for the protection of some animals which are very rare. So migratory birds sometimes come to the Pulicat Lake of Andhra Pradesh, and they are millions in number, come together at one place near the lake. So the Pulicat Lake is observed as a sanctuary, bird sanctuary, and it is a natural place, natural habitat of those animals. They come and they live there. So we are protecting the area of their habitat. Hence, it is a in situ conservation. Hope you are understanding the difference between in situ and ex situ conservation. Examples you can see here. And the next one is sacred groves. Sacred groves means the smaller group of trees within a forest with a special religious importance. So at some region, religious activities go on, and in that region, if they have planted the trees, especially for the worship of God, so they are called the sacred groves. Okay, so there is a need for protection of these sacred groves as well, because those plant species are rare and they are endangered. There are two kinds of conservations: in situ conservation and ex situ conservation. In situ means in situation conservation. It is also called on-site conservation. Okay, and ex situ conservation means off-site conservation, because it is not the natural habitat of animals. Okay, so if we are protecting at their natural habitat, it's called in situ conservation. And examples are national parks, sanctuaries, biosphere reserves, and sacred groves. Also the biodiversity hotspots. Ex situ conservations are nothing but the artificially made atmospheres for the animals. Examples: cryopreservation, in vitro fertilization, in vitro culture, and gene bank. We learn about this in vitro culture and cryopreservation and off situ conservation in the next slide. Let's see. Let's see the ex situ conservations. First is the zoo parks, because in the zoo park is not the natural habitat of animals. We artificially create an environment and we keep an animal. We bring the animals from the forest and keep in the zoo. You must think how far zoo parks are good and how far it is respecting the feelings of an animal. So there is no understanding of animals in the zoo parks. But zoo parks are also important because uh, we have to protect the uh, animals when the habitat is completely destructed. It is our moral responsibility to create artificial environment for them for protection, isn't it? The next is cryopreservation, means protecting the plant species, plant seeds, or animal ovums under the 197 degrees of Celsius. In that temperature, in the laboratory, we protect some of the endangered animals, sperms of endangered animals, and seeds of endangered plants. Here we can see the laboratory where the cryopreservation occur. Okay. So here you can see the examples for the zoo park. It is not the natural habitat of the animals. We have brought animals from different locations and we kept in the zoo parks for the recreation of ourselves. Okay. Let's learn the next slide. IUCN data book. IUCN is an institution which means the International Code for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. Okay, it is most important for your 2 marks question. Remember this: International Code for Conservation of Plants, Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. This IUCN releases a book called Red Data Book. A red indicates the danger, isn't it? Always red indicates some kind of a danger. Here also, it indicates the animals which are in the danger. That means they are going to be extinct. There are 2 kinds of animals: endemic species and extinct species. Endemic species means the animals which are very special to one particular location. Examples like kangaroos. Mostly you can find kangaroos only in the Australian continent, isn't it? You cannot find those animals in other places. Hence, the Australia is an endemic place uh, of these kangaroos. So kangaroo are endemic species of the Australia. Let's see, all the threatened species are listed in the red data book, just now I said, and published by IUCN, which are classified as below. The spelling is wrong here. Ignore any tiny spelling mistakes are there. Let's see. Let's see about some about the endangered and critically endangered and vulnerable species. So IUCN releases a book called Red Data Book, and in that book, they produce 3 kinds of animals. Critically endangered animal, that means they are highly highly in danger, and they are getting extinct. They are getting extinct. Their number of species is decreased. Okay, so they are called critically endangered animals. They are protected by all the governments. Next, endangered animals, they are also going to be extinct in the near future. So they are also must to be protected. Next is vulnerable species. These vulnerable species may extinct in future generations in 100 and 200 years. So they have indicated and they have listed the animals in this pattern. Let's learn next. Wildlife Act. The Wildlife Act is given by our government, and according to this act, the trading or killing endangered species is a punishable offense. Okay, so In this way, the government is also protecting the animals. Even the biodiversity hotspots and whatever the in situ conservation places are there, like national parks, zoo parks, in those region also, in the biodiversity hotspot region also, if any people hunt the animals, they will be punished. Means in that way they try to protect the animal species. Let's see some of the threatened species in the India. Examples: the Asiatic lion. Just now I told it is the Gir forest in the Gujarat is famous for this Asiatic lion, Panthera leo. And next, the black buck is antelope, and red panda. Okay, Allurus, and next the lion-tailed macaca. Macaca means the monkey. So macaca silenus, and next tiger, Panthera tigris. It is also in the threatened list of threatened species. Next, Kashmiri stag, okay, Cervus elephas, and next elephant, Elephas maximus indicus, pygmy hog, Siberian crane, okay, and next slender loris. Loris is one of the mammal, okay. So these are the threatened species, some of the threatened species which are protected by different in situ and in situ conservations. Okay, let's see what we have learned so far. So let me give you some assignment also for this class. Dear students, keep a running notes, a separate book for the zoology subject, and start writing these assignments in that. You can write the running notes, also assignment. Okay. So hope you are doing all these things. The first question you need to write in that is explain rabbit-popper hypothesis, which is important for your IPE also. Write the full form and explain about IUCN. Okay. Next, explain and differentiate in situ and ex situ conservation techniques. Okay. Explain evil quadrate. Okay. Evil quadrate means the threats to biodiversity. Okay, dear students, thank you so much. This is Rajkumar signing out. Hope you do all these things. Sir, thank you.
Thank you, Rajkumar sir.
Thank you, madam.